when they are tap closed, because the pressure around there is low, they used to proceed to Fajara Barracks. We have a water hydrant. They will come and fetch water from there and go back to the training school with their buckets in bulk, in numbers. So I think whilst they were going back, they noticed that this thing has been dug out by the dogs. And I don't know how that information was peddled until it reached Banjul. And the information arrived that, this dead ram was actually operated on, and they have put a juju in it, they shrouded it, and it was buried at the Fajara Barracks. At that time, Lieutenant Colonel Seni Bayo was my commanding officer. After that time, I'll come to that, he was dismissed and he went to America. Now recently he is back. He is our CO, commanding officer in Farafenye. Astaghfirullah. He is our commanding officer in Basse. So when this thing happened, this thing was discovered, calls have been made, the IG came, the director of NIA that time came, I think the deputy chief of defense staff came, or the CDS came, all the service seniors came to Fajara Barracks.
Can you tell us their names?
The Inspector General of Police was there, Esa Baji, Jesus. I think the Deputy Chief of Defense Staff was there, or the Army Commander, something like that, Yankuba Drame. He is the Deputy Chief of Defense Staff now. I don't know what portfolio he was holding that time. He maybe Army Commander or something like that. The Director of Intelligence also came. If I don't forget, it would have been, I think, Harry Sambo. And many senior officers from the State Guard also came. So me, I fall out that afternoon, and when I reach home, then they had already come to the barracks. I think, according to information, that dead ram was taken to even up to the RVH for some medical diagnosis. So when I reach at home, then I think they called me, but they couldn't get me. So it was Maghrib time. I just performed ablution. So I was on the mat and attempting to pray, Maghrib. Then my phone rang. So I had not started the prayer. So I said, let me just take my phone. And I took my phone and I checked. It was a private call. That time, the perception about private call is somebody important there. Nobody is important in the eyes of God. We are all equal. So when I received the call, it was my CEO, Lieutenant Colonel Bayo. He said, Bah. I said, yes. I said, where are you? I said, sir, I am at home. I was on duty, so I fall out, so I am at home. He said, come back now. I said, sir, is there any problem? He said, no, just come. But I could overheard some talking around him, So I knew it was not normal. So I said, no need to further ask what is the problem. So then I said, okay, I'm praying. After that, I'm coming. So I prayed. Then after that, I informed my family that, they have called me to Fajara Barracks. I am going back to Fajara Barracks. So I was not driving. So I boarded the normal vehicles, passenger vehicles. When I reached at Fajara Barracks, I was surprised because all these service chiefs were there. So many officers from State Guard were also there. So I approached my CO, and then I saw that they were bullshitting my CO. So...
What do you mean by that?
In the military, we expect that, it's chain of command. We expect your subordinates should talk to you in a very disciplined way. In the military, we don't condone that. Your subordinate, even if you were born on the same day or he is your father at home, once you are his senior, the regimentation takes principles. If it is father, he will take instructions from his son. And he should comport himself in a way how a junior should comport himself towards the senior. So that respect was not there, the people talking to my commanding officer. Virtually, we know that there was no discipline in the end, at the end. Your junior man can report you and then you can fall in problem. So when I came, they also accosted me and asked me, what do you know about this thing? Explain. I said, hey, look, I said, I don't know anything about this. I cannot explain anything. What I know is that I was on duties yesterday, and then we did our duties with my guards peacefully. And this morning I wrote the duty officer handing over, and I didn't mention any problem because no problem was reported to me, and I did not notice any problem. And after that, I fall out. That is all I know. I don't know anything about this dead ram issue. I don't know. That time already the guys I was on guard with, my guard commander, you know, my sergeant and then the staff sergeant, you know, the other guards were already also kept there. So my immediate assistant was, I think, Warrant Officer Class 2, Fasidu Mane. He left now. He is from Katong. That morning, like I went home, he has also gone home. So they were trying to call him to get him, but his telephone was not on. I think they called Katong to go and arrest him. So then they sat us there, Bio was there, you know, my guard commanders were there. So later we heard that, you know, Hechi said he's going to set an example. And when they say set an example that time,
we just need the clarity. When you say Hechi, who are you referring to?
Obviously, Jamel.
Is he known by any other name within your circles?
Yeah, they give him so many names. You know, SMI, I think that means tiger, you know, crocodile, you know, the big man, you know. You know, they give those type of names. Baba, they give those type of names, you know. So, yeah. So they said, he said he's going to set an example. Those in the guard duty, the corporals, should be dismissed with immediate effect. Then the rest, he is going to set an example on them. So that's where we sat until 1 a.m. in the night. Then myself and my guards, we were put into a vehicle to take into the NIA headquarters in Banjul. My CO bio was not brought. I don't know for what reason. So we were there. I remember vividly that day when we arrived, we slept on the floor at the reception. That's where we slept until morning. We didn't even have dinner. Then subsequently, you know, they divide us. You can be going in group, divide. There are a lot of, you know, underground detention places, cells there for investigation. So, you know, they divided us. So later, they finally put us up in a hall there. They converged us in a hall there. And, you know, they established a panel to investigate about this thing. We spent about 4 days. The fourth day, I was the first one to be released. Because my statement was very scanty. I didn't mention anything about that. So when they came, you know, they told me, now you are going home, but the rest will stay. And believe me, I didn't even want to go because my soldiers were crying. You know, as I was bidding farewell to them, they were crying, you know. But then I just tell them that, you know, no problems. This, you know, God is in charge. So just maintain the esprit de corps, the spirit between each others. Inshallah, they will release you. Allah, inshallah.
So during the days that you spent at the NIA, did anything happen to you during that period?
The others I don't know, but personally, me, nothing happened because they take us one after the other to the investigation panel. But me, really nothing happened, because when I came and then they put my statement, my statement was maybe a quarter page. So I didn't stay long there, and they took me, but everybody had the turn to face the investigation panel. So then I was released when I...
Before you continue with the release, you mentioned that at the NIA premises, there are some underground cells. Do you know where those cells are located within the premises?
You have the building, so normally on the sides of the buildings or in the different rooms, there are so many rooms. You have a walkway, and then you have so many rooms. So when they are investigating, they take to different rooms. So there are so many rooms. I went there recently, but then they have smashed most of the places. Have been smashed down now.
Please proceed with your release.
So the fourth day, I was released very late in the evening. My brother Abdullah is here. He is a police officer. When I was released, I went to his house. Then we went to the sea. It's common to shower. Then after that, I went home. Then I think the following day or the next day, 2 days later, my other colleagues were also released. My commanding officer, Siani Bayo, was dismissed following that. And that time, the commander of the Republican National Guards was also Lieutenant Colonel Biran Sen. He was also dismissed. The commander of RNG was dismissed. My own commanding officer was also dismissed. So, but for us, we remain.
Did they eventually find out what the real story was behind the dead ram?
Very well. Actually, what happened was, I think it was the third day in the night, because where we were, you have the window, you can peep through the entrance hall. Suddenly, around 1 o'clock in the night, I saw a Ndapa car, this all sides covered car. We use it for this thing, distributing food. It's covered all around. It was those vehicles at the TSU, if you would see them. One of them brought, and I saw little children jump out of the vehicle. And I recognized that these are our Fajara Barracks children. So down the investigation, they discovered about these children. And I think the children even, they reacted the scenario there. So I don't know subsequently when were they taken back, whether they were taken back the same night or whether they were taken back the following day. But as far as I know, roughly around 1 a.m. in the night, the children were brought there, and I recognized they are, Fajara Barracks children. And according, they acted the movie there.
So just to make sure I understand this correctly, are you saying that around 1 a.m. in the morning, while you were at the NIA premises, the headquarters, children were brought in for questioning? Is that correct?
Exactly, around 1 a.m., the children were brought there to the NIA,
Okay. You told us that you were arrested a second time. Can you tell us about that incident?
That's correct. This was during the political impasse. From 2015 to 2017, I was the deputy commander at the Fajara Barracks. Several people have been commanded there, they go, but I remain. And subsequently, in 2016, a very heated political campaign here, we all know. Then subsequently came the elections. And we play our part to ensure, especially me as the 2IC, together with my CO, we try to play our part to ensure that since the soldiers are permitted to vote, for them to vote. We had meetings with the IEC, and then we told them that come election day, our soldiers will not be able to go and vote where they are registered, because the army will be on 100% standby, meaning that everybody will stay put. So we negotiate with them to work out modalities to have our soldiers being able to vote. We highlighted those concerns. They were also reasonable, and they accepted. So what we did was we asked all the soldiers to bring along their voting cards. We wrote their name, and we wrote the name of the voter registration number. Then we sent the list to the IEC. So in response, what IEC also did was they checked the list and they divided our soldiers to different polling stations around the general area of Fajara, Bakau, and those areas. And then our other soldiers in TSU around the Kololi area. So when it was 2 days before the election, we had a meeting about the soldiers, how they will vote. Because already we have taken over a lot of guard posts, like the PIU, the Police Intervention Unit, there are guard posts around here. We were instructed to take over those guard posts. So we have distributed a lot of our soldiers outside. And we want those ones to vote, and we want the one in the camp also to vote. So we arranged some vehicles, and as early as 6 a.m., those our soldiers in the camp, we put them in vehicles and dispatch them to various polling stations so that they can vote and come back. Those ones that are on duty can also have the chance to vote. We thought that it would be very smooth, because already we had discussed with the IEC, and we have agreed with the IEC. But unfortunately, at certain polling stations, there were some problems, because I think the information was not translated to some of the polling agents. And when they see a lot of soldiers come to queue, because they were not instructed, they say the soldiers will not vote. Especially the polling station at Bakau Newtown Primary School. I had to go there myself, to talk with them. And I remember, I don't know who was there. If I see him, perhaps I will recognize him, the presiding officer. I said, look, allow these people to vote. This is a secret ballot. Where I will vote, you don't know. And I can tell you for sure, after convincing him, I can tell you for sure that there are many among these people who will not even vote for Yahya Jammeh. I said, they are citizens. Just please be flexible. And I said to the guy, I quoted, I said, the principle of command in the military, one of the principles of command in the military is flexibility. Command will give you instruction, but as the situation dictates, you should be flexible with your command. So eventually they vote, we change them, and they vote. Then we had deployed so many troops in our AOR, because we have the most populous area of responsibility, Fajara Barracks. We are in charge of the KMC. Our boundary with Banjul is Denton Bridge. They are responsible of Banjul. And KM is a big municipality. It also houses all the strategic, all the strategic assets like banks, and communication, this thing, go to power station and all those things. So we deployed a lot of troops. And when we deploy a lot of troops, obviously, if you have not planned very well, where you deploy them, toiletries, shower, bedding, and all those things, you expect to have problems. I was the battalion twice, and obviously operational matters were under my responsibility. So I used to go around every day to check my soldiers, to talk with them, to motivate them to try to solve their problems, so many problems. And the election, the vote counting night, 11 o'clock met me in Westfield. Because in Westfield is our area of responsibility. We have deployed there. The state guards have also deployed there from Banjul. The bulldozers have also deployed there. The paramilitary have also deployed there. So I suggested that this is the duplicity of effort. Why not we move our guys from there? So then I went back, and then, subsequently, to cut the long story, because this, everybody knows, counting of the votes, at some point it stopped, after it continued, at some point it has a very long lull, and after it stopped. So eventually it emerged clear that, the coalition have defeated the incumbent. And then finally the announcement was made. So everybody was like hesitant, what is going to happen. Then suddenly we were all relieved, because that was, as the Alpha Jodara said, he said, whatever happened, he's a musician from Guinea. He said, whatever is happening is what people talk about. So we were talking about that until eventually the incumbent accepted on television live that he has accepted, and everybody was relieved. A few days after that, there was a U-turn, and again the tension mounted again within the army. Orders in, orders on defense, orders against. So we had that situation. Definitely it was a big tension, coupled with the fact that also we have deployed so many troops outside. The conditions outside are not suitable. Also we were also receiving crazy instructions from Banjul. Build fighting positions here, build fighting position here, build fighting position here. Haphazard instructions, no clear instructions were given. Build fighting positions for what are the instructions, what are the orders? We were receiving those crazy instructions.
Can you tell us a bit more about those instructions? What were some of the locations that you were told to build fighting orders? Yeah.
Virtually all the strategic locations, like in Bakau, around Cape House, we built a fighting position there. Around Cape Point, we built a fighting position there. Around that Cape Point road that goes to Banjul, we established. In Bakau, around the former Observer Johnson, we established a fighting position there. So many places, in almost the length and breadth of KM, so many fighting positions we have brought along the main highways. Those of the people who were here at that time, they would have seen so many fighting positions that were built. And then we received instructions to deploy more troops, meaning more problems. Because the soldiers where they were deployed, there was no bedding, there was no shower. Even so many of them, even the place to go to toilet, they don't have. They have to beg from civilians in the neighborhood to use their toilets. So many problems we were having. Sometimes the tea, breakfast is not enough. They have miscalculated. Maybe the place have been reinforced. You have more personnel there. Bread is not enough and things like that. So we were having those complaints every day from the soldiers.
Just a couple of questions to clarify some of what you've said already. Although it may be obvious, it still has to come from you. What does KM stand for? You mentioned KM.
Kanifing Municipality.
At some point, you mentioned bulldozers. Can you explain to us what you meant by that?
The bulldozers were a special unit that was created, and then they were headquartered in Kanifing. In Kanifing, yes. They were given some special instructions. I don't know much about that, but the unit was there, you know.
You mentioned that during that time you were receiving instructions and the instructions were haphazard. Who were you receiving instructions from? Who was your commander at that time?
My CO, my commanding officer was Colonel Isa Tamba, commonly called Jesus.
That's what I was going to ask. Please proceed.
Yeah, so that status quo continued. So many problems. We are trying to address the problems, going around every 2 days, sending patrols in the night and having one patrol on standby, you know, in case of any eventuality anywhere to send the patrol there. That was my responsibility. You know, so the problem continued. Alongside that also, we are having casual conversation, you know, with our colleague officers. You know, whatever happened, people talk about it. You know, and in my opinion, I tell my officers, I said, look, the issue is for me personally, I'm not talking about anyone, because now it's like the sea now. Anyone have to paddle his canoe to go. I said, my opinion is that I am not going to follow this man. I tell my officers plainly, those that I am very close to. You know, I said, I'm not going to follow this man. He have been here for 22 years. He have been winning election, and we have been rallying behind him. Now that the people of the country have decided to vote him out, definitely for me, my conscience tells me that I should follow the will of the people. The choice of the people is my choice. I personally, I'm not going to follow any other person, but I follow the Gambian people, because I'm a Gambian. So casually when we chat, we talk about this, you know. So the status quo remain like that, crazy instructions every now and then, you know. So when I go around, my soldiers are asking me, they say, sir, what are the instructions here? What are we supposed to do here? Because the moment the guy took the U-turn also, they were receiving provocations from people. And you know, the soldier, when he is not experienced, there is possibility of temptation and he can use his weapon. So when I go around, I tell them that, look, you have been deployed here. I know you are not given any instruction, but I said one thing, the instructions to open fire should come from me as the operation officer, not me per se, but from the command, and I am representing the command.
You mentioned the crazy instructions. Do you know where those crazy instructions were coming from?
Well, I was receiving instructions from my commanding officer, because chain of command requires that you receive instructions from your commanding officer. Unless it is not a normal thing, instructions should flow along the line of chain of command.
So who was your commanding officer receiving instructions from?
My commanding officer and my unit were under the RNG, Republican National Guards, that had 2 battalions that time. The State Guard Battalion in Banjul, the Guards Battalion in Fajara Barracks. So we were all under the umbrella of the commander of Republican National Guards, who is none other than General Suleiman Baji. So I assume that the instructions would have been coming from him, wherever they may come from.
And still based on the chain of command, from what you know, where would General Saul Baji have received his instructions from?
Obviously, General Baji, he was very powerful. Actually, he was the one running the show. The others were just symbols. This is a fact. As an enlightened officer, you know this thing. He was the one running the show. And I assume that, of course, he is taking the instructions from Yahya Jammeh directly, who is the commander-in-chief that time of the Gambia Armed Forces.
Thank you for that clarification. Please continue.
So like I said, these crazy instructions continued, and I went around and I told my soldiers that the order to open fire should only come from me. Even if you are provoked, you are pelted with stones, do not respond with fire. So the order to open fire, the instructions should come only from us. So as I said, I was going around every 2 days. So we were given instructions to establish a fighting position around the Tipa Garage. You know, Tipa Garage is a crowded area. They had established a fighting position somewhere, you know, and there are a lot of, you know, the civilian population close to that. So whilst I was going round, I went to that place and I saw the place. Then, you know, I felt that this fighting position is not suitable here. I look around, I saw Bakote police station. It's like a semi-story building. So I went there and I went up and I checked that is a very suitable place. The view is okay. You can establish a fighting position there and then you can control the whole area. So I decided to transfer the fighting position on top of the police building. And now I post my people there to operate with the police, and I have to talk to both of them because they are operating together. And I said to them, I said, look, even though you are putting on different uniforms, the security services of the Gambia are one. Somebody is like all of us together, other putting on halftan, other putting on suit, other putting on other clothes, but we are one. So operate together, respect each other, respond to any threat together. So I addressed them nicely. Then I went. Then I used to go to Bakau, then go along the Kairaba, visit all our positions around Bakau area. Our boundary with Yundum was the GNPC petrol station in Abuko. I had also established a fighting position there. So one evening, again, I was going around just to check what my soldiers, what their conditions are. So I went around, checked all the places. Then whilst I was in the car going around the Latrikunda market, that evening, a day before that again, I went around and again I went to the Bakote station. I think 3 days before that. So whilst I was at the Bakote station, then I received a call. It was a private number, and then I picked the call, and it happened to be General Suleiman Baji. We greeted. He said, where are you? Are you at the camp? I said, no, I'm not at the camp. I said, I'm going round, sir. We have too many problems. I'm going round now. I am at Bakote station. Because I pray Maghrib at the petroleum building. Then from there, I went to Bakote station. He said, okay, I am also coming from around Sukuta. I said, sir, but there are too many problems. He said, okay, now let's meet at the Bakote dump site. He said, are you with escort? I said, yes, I'm with escort. He said, for me, I'm not with escort. So can we meet around the Bakote dump site? But leave your escort behind. I said, okay. So I said, where? He said, when you take that Bakote, around the SOS, before you reach that Bakote clinic, you will see two Refusal tabla, one on the left, one on the right, and there's a red container behind one of the Refusal tabla. Let's meet around there. I said, okay. So I left my guys there. Then I tell I'm coming. I drove the car, and I went and I parked behind that container. I closed the doors of my vehicle, I came down from the car and I took cover behind that container. You know, you have the back of the dump site. Also calculating, what has this guy called me for? If at all he is with his escort, then I will just submerge. I will sink. I will disappear in this thing, inside the back of the dump site. He would not see me. But if at all he is alone, this is one-on-one. If there is any threat, then who dares win? So suddenly I was there. After 15, 17 minutes, I saw a black car coming from around ahead. Around the Bakote High School area on the highway, this big black car. So immediately I suspected that it must be him. He came, and I'm sure he must have passed my car. He must have seen my car, so he passed. When I don't see the escort following him, the moment he passed, I opened the car, I entered, and I sat there. After a while, he turned back. Then he came until he passed me. He passed the Africell tabla on the opposite side. He also branched there. So I came down from the vehicle and then I went to meet him. When I went to meet him, and the moment I arrived, he opened the door. It was very cold inside. The AC is running. He was having his weapon around the gear. I was having my cocked pistol under my armpit. So I entered, I sit down, and then we greeted. So when we greeted, he started narrating stories. He said, look, you know, do you know what happened about this election? I said, no, what happened is clear. He said, look, do you know that these people have played a very big mafia game? Our guys in the diaspora have contributed huge amount of money, and they bribed these guys at the IEC to turn the results against the president. And, you know, also, you know, we had a lot of dissidents outside. Those ones are based in Senegal. And the Senegalese government is also helping them in planning, you know, to give them arms. And they have also got machineries. And equally also, they are conniving with some members of the armed forces, you know, to come and make sure that they attack the country. And there is this threat also from ECOWAS. And you know, look, Bah, I know you long time. We did courses together, VIP training and other courses together. I know you are a very professional man. So we are counting on people like you to make sure that that doesn't happen. To do whatever it takes to make sure that that doesn't happen. You know, so he told me those things, and, you know, so many things, bad guys, you know, the West is backing those people, you know, things like that. And then finally he said to me, you know, look, he said, there is this tax, you know, because now, you know, they wanted to create the impression that these people, even though things went like this, you know, they want to show the international community that these people, you know, are not fit, you know, even to rule this country. So they are bent on violence and vengeance and revenge. So he gave me a task that he gave me some targets that I should plant explosives there, and I should explode those targets. And then they will put the blame on them. They will promote me to the rank I want, and then they will also look after my welfare. They will give me money as much as I want. So when he said that, I kept quiet. I was in the car, I kept quiet for almost 2-3 minutes. He said, is there any problem? I said, no, there is no problem. I said, I am calculating. I said yes, because he mentioned about what happened in 1981 when they invaded the country, the Senegalese invaded the country. I said yes. I said, but this time around also, 1981, it was the turn of others to protect this country. 2016, this is the time that we are also found in the army. And, you know, I was talking to him in a mature way. It is our responsibility to make sure that we protect this country. Whether we do it is our responsibility. Whether we don't do it, it is our responsibility. And we will make sure that this country, we will defend it and then protect the territorial integrity and protect the people and the properties of the country. Seemingly trying to agree with him, seemingly. So the targets he mentioned is the GMPC petrol stations to bomb, to explode them, to plant explosives and explode them. So I told him, yes, I can do it. I said, but you know, this is a difficult, it's a simple task, but it's also a difficult task. Because you have said that, you know, there are some, you know, members of the fifth column, you know, enemies within us who are conniving with our dissidents, and we don't know who is who. So you also need to give me time, like the way you trust me, also to scout out people that I trust to help me actualize this thing. He said, okay. He said, but please, very soon. So you make sure you call me, at least before 2 days, call me. I said, okay, I will call you. He said, otherwise, are there any problems? I said, yeah, there are so many problems. And I explained these problems I mentioned, you know, the soldiers, you know, accommodation is a problem, toiletry and all those things. So then after that, I complimented him and I get off the car. When I get off the car, I move a few steps, he called me. I came, he lowered the mirror, this thing, the door glass, and then he gave me 10,000. I said, what? He said, you know, we are on 100% standby. You can buy credit and other things from this, okay? But don't worry, your welfare will be taken care of. I said, okay. So when he lowered the glass, the door, this thing, when I came down, when I went back, you know, as I faced, you know, I'm able to see behind, and I could see some money bags inside the car. Some money bags. I could see some money bags inside the car, piled together in the behind. So then after that, I left.
Before you proceed, you mentioned that one of the things that Saul Baji said to you was, these people are bent on revenge or vengeance. Which people was he referring to? Which people were he?
I assume that time he is talking about the coalition that have won the election, because there was no logic for other people to do. I assume he was talking because he talked about the rigging of the election against them, and then he spoke about this. So I assume that time he is referring to the coalition, really, reasonably.
Please proceed.
So from there, I went back to Barracks station, you know, then with my escort. I drove back to Fajara Barracks. I didn't call him, really. The following day, I didn't call him. The second day after that, I didn't call him. Then the third day, my commanding officer told me that in the morning, he told me that Commander RNG is coming to visit the camp today, this morning. I said, okay. I said, let me just contact, because when a general is coming to the camp, you organize what they call quarter guard ceremony, small ceremony to receive him. I said, then let me tell the RSM to organize quarter guard before he arrives. And then the guys, my commanding officer told me that he said there is no need for a quarter guard. This is just a family visit. And this is unusual. A general officially coming to the camp, they should organize quarter guard for you. So then, being the battalion twice, we arrange chairs and we fall in all the soldiers to sit there. So I remained with them. My commander and few officers went to the gate to receive Saul Baji. So eventually, finally he came. Then when he came, they walked with him from the gate. Then I raised the battalion, and then I salute. I give him the figure, and then, you know, I seek permission to sit them down. He said, okay. And, you know, when they sat down, he narrated verbatim the same thing he told me when I met with him one-on-one. He narrated exactly the same thing, except the instruction he gave to me. So in my mind, I was calculating that because perhaps he didn't hear from me, that is why he came for a visit.
When you say everything except the instructions he gave you, which specific instructions are you referring to?
The instruction about those targets to destroy.
You said that he mentioned GNPC. Were other targets mentioned as well?
He mentioned specifically the GNPC petrol stations. And later, information came that some guys want to sabotage to bomb the GNPCs, to burn the GNPC stations. It was the GNPC stations. He mentioned petroleum house, but later he changed the instruction. Yeah, but it was mainly the GNPC stations.
So after he gave the same instruction, he relayed the same information to the soldiers, excluding the specific instruction he gave you regarding the explosives. What else happened?
Then he gave some money to the officers. I think 20,000, if I don't forget. He gave some money to the officers. There was money in his car. He gave 20,000 to the officers, and he also gave, I think, some money also, whether it's 30,000 or 40,000, I don't know precisely. I don't remember precisely. Also, he gave to the troops. Then after that, when he said he was going, the officers, we saw him off to the car. We take him along, carried him beside the car. So when he was about to enter the car, I salute him. I said, sir, I said, with the threats you are talking about against the country, against Gambia, considering that in Fajara Barracks, we don't have weapons. Our guys are on standby, roughly almost about 800 to 900 soldiers on standby, and even half of those people were not armed. So what mechanisms are there to make sure that we defend our camp and we defend the country in case if there is any problem? What mechanisms are there? Because I know for a fact from my training experience, from my professional experience, I know for a fact that for an army to fight a battle, they need at least 6 months preparation, if not 1 year. Because you need to study the ground, you need to study the avenue of approach, you need to zero your heavy weapons, to zero them on the avenues of approach. The logistic connections, you need to work out all those things. I know it should take at least 6 months to prepare to counter an enemy that is attacking your army. So I was somehow asking this question, but at the same time also trying to ridiculing him. That what mechanisms are there? We have empty hands. He said, bah, don't worry. We have more than enough weapons. But right now, as things are, we must know who is who first. And then after that, he looked at my rank. He said, oh, you are still a captain. I said, yeah. He asked my commanding officer. He said, but why is this guy not promoted? And that guy told him, I don't know. So then he entered his car and then he went.
If I can just stop you there temporarily. Mr. Chairman, I'm seeking guidance because we only have a few more minutes in order to conclude the testimony. I think roughly 15 minutes beyond time. So I would propose, if that's agreeable to the commissioners, to continue for another 15 minutes and then end the testimony, and then we're done for today. Yes.
Thank you, Counsel. You may proceed accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please proceed with your testimony, Captain Ba.
So we saw him off and he went away. He went. So we returned back to our routine. I returned back to my routine, going around to check on my troops. And I think when he came that day, I didn't go out, but the following day, I went out. Or the second day, I went out again, all around all our positions, all our deployments. So again, I used to go this way and then come back this way. I used to go by the Kairaba Avenue. After finishing Bakawa, I used to go via the Kairaba Avenue up to GMPC, Abuko, turn back, go to Bundung area, exit around Serekunda, then go to GNPC, go to Petroleum House, then from there come to Accosted Station, then from there proceed to Senegambia, because that time we had our soldiers deployed in Senegambia, the TSU, Tourism Security Unit. Then pass there and then finally go to Kairaba Avenue and then go to Fajara Barracks. So on this occasion also, on this particular day also, as usual, in that late evening, I was going round, then I went up to around, when I finished that area, I went up to just finishing the Latikunda market, going towards Tabokoto to check our last fighting position on the boundary with Yundum. I received a call from our adjutant. The adjutant is Lieutenant Yahya Jame. He was our adjutant. Then I received call from him. He said, permission, sir. I said, Karon, who is that adjutant? I said, how are you? He said, fine. He said, sir, where are you? I said, as usual, I'm going round to look after the problems of our troops. But right now, I'm just going to our last point, the GMPC petrol station in Abuko. Then from there, I will turn Bakote, Petroleum House, TSU Senegambia, and back to Bakau. He said, but the commander said he have been calling you, but he cannot get you, the commanding officer. That is Colonel Tamba Jesus. I said, he is calling me, he cannot get me. I said, no. I said, my telephone is on. Maybe it's the network, but I have not received any call from him. I said, please tell him, let him try me. He said, okay. So after a while, as I was driving up to around Tabokoto to pass that petrol station to go, again, my phone rang again for a second time. He said, sir, but commander said he is still calling you, he cannot get you. I said, it's strange, maybe the network. He said, okay, commander said you come back to the camp. He said there is an information from Banjul to brief all the troops. I said, okay. So at that place, without reaching GMPC Abuko, I just took a U-turn come back to Bakau. So I came, that time the traffic was free, there is less traffic. I came through Kairaba Avenue. Then I came, when I was passing the Kairaba station, our guys were stationed there. I saw that, then the state guard had also deployed there an anti-aircraft gun. And I saw those sandbags were turned. I advised them, I said, these sandbags that are turned, remove them, empty the sand, and just rearrange the sandbags. So then after that, I boarded the vehicle and I went back to Fajara Barracks. When I arrived at Fajara Barracks, my commanding officer was not there. Incidentally, also, that was the day that the African Cup of Nations started, either the first or the second day. So I just entered my office with my orderly. There was football, and the tension was high in the camp. I say, let me go to the drivers, their office, to watch the match there. They were showing the match there. So from there, I went there, and I was sitting there watching the match. Barely 20 minutes after that, the orderly of the commander came looking for me. So I think somebody told him I am there with the drivers watching. He came and saluted me. He said, commander, say you go. I said, okay. So I just got up like that. That time, everybody, wherever you are going, you are carrying your helmet, your weapon, and your weapon is always on you. Standby is like that. Wherever you are going, you are carrying along your weapon. Every soldier who was armed that time was carrying the weapon. So then I followed the orderly. And when I followed the orderly, we take a turn around the armory. Then I saw my commanding officer, and he was coming towards me. So, he was smoking and talking on the telephone. So when we get closer, before we meet, he switched off the telephone. He ring off the call. And, something strange happened. I expect that I should salute him, but instead he salute me before I salute him. In the military, we say something very common. The reason why they say the soldier is always 6 common sense as opposed to 5. You have to have the ability to distinguish what is usual from what is unusual. That was very unusual. I expect that I should salute him, but he saluted me before I salute him. So I was smelling some things, So he said to me, yes, I call you back. We have an information from Banjul, so let us gather the whole battalion and then we brief them. I said, okay. I asked for the RSM. They said the RSM is away. His deputy, I asked him to fall in the whole battalion. So then they started falling in the battalion until when the RSM was just about to hand over to me, I invite the officers. Then when the commanding officer come, I also hand over. Then we listen to the information. Then he came out from his office and called me again. So I went and I met with him halfway. He said to me, now let the soldiers wait. First, there are 2 information, one for the officers only, the other for everybody. So let the officers have briefing in my office first. Let's have briefing in my office. Then after that, then we will all go together and brief the rest of the men. So I told the deputy RSM, I told him that, it's already dark. It was almost around after Maghrib. I said, please don't allow the soldiers to scatter because it will take time to gather them again. Let them just scatter, but stay within. Then after the meeting, we will come and meet them. So when I went, I met the adjutant at the gate. He said that, sir, but commander said, he said the tension is high. So let us have a meeting. Let us place our weapons and have a meeting without weapons because the situation tension is very high. But we are in our camp. So I said, okay. So the officers who were coming, I said, commander said he doesn't want us to have meeting, with our weapons. Let's place our weapons and then come to his office to have meeting. Some officers were reluctant, but me being the second in command, I persuaded them. I said, look, this is our home, man. We have a meeting in our home. Our gate is guarded. We have over almost 800 to 900 troops here. What can happen? Nothing. Let's just place our weapons. So they went to the ante-room to place their weapons. I turned, my orderly was walking behind me. He's also armed, walking, some few steps behind me. I removed my helmet, I gave him. I removed my weapon, I gave him. I removed my rifle and I gave him. I said, go and sit in the office and wait. The moment we come out from the office, then bring my things. When he was even going, I forgot my pistol was with me, so I just pulled out the pistol. I said, come. Then finally I gave him the pistol and he went to the office. Then we went inside. We were having about 14 officers at the Fajara Barracks. So I ushered them into the office of the commander. We all sat. And then I said to him, sir, we have 14 personnel. Let's pray and start the meeting. I don't even know what the agenda of the meeting was. So while that was going on, I heard the noise of vehicles roaring outside around the commander's office. And when I listened keenly to the sound of the engines, I knew that these are not the vehicles of these are not our vehicles. They are not the Fajara Barracks vehicle. I am familiar, to the convoy vehicles. They are the sound of their engine, the State Guard vehicles, then the sound of their engine. So, and suddenly it appeared to me as if some people were jumping out of the vehicle. It was already dark. So whilst we were praying to start the meeting, suddenly, 2 guys came, pop, they opened the door. The officers were sitting inside. I don't remember the rest, but the one who came to tell the commander, we come to you, come, is one Lieutenant Noah Williams. So then the commander said, who, me? the way they pushed the door, everybody was somehow reactive. But I was sitting directly facing my commander, but he didn't have such reaction. It's normal to have such reactions. If he doesn't have that such reaction, it means maybe he knew the subject matter. So then he came out with them. Less than 2 minutes, he came back alone and tell me, bro, answer to these people. I said, me? He said, yes. I said, what for? He said, no answer. So as I was coming out, it's like, this is the door. One of them had taken cover here, another one had taken cover here. The moment I step out, they grab my hand and then, put the handcuff. And I was struggling with them until eventually they were able to handcuff me. When they want to push me inside, I stamped the wall. We some struggle with them. Then again, I think when he went inside again, he told Captain Demba Balde Mbarodi. Mbarodi also, they also entered inside, and then they handcuffed Mbarodi also. So what happened is they drove the car up to the gate, up to the door of the, and they opened the car and then just push us inside. I was expecting that definitely the fighting would have started that moment, because I never thought that a twice of a battalion which is roughly around almost 900 to 1,000 soldiers, that a foreign element of roughly around 25 people or less than that will come to the camp and arrest the deputy commander of the camp and get out of the camp without a firefight. If that happens, that it means there was a setup.
You mentioned that there were foreign elements. Which security force were they from?
They were from the state guards. They were from the state guards, from military police personnel from the state guard, headed by Lieutenant Noah William. So, like I said, for my commander to be arrested in the Fajara barracks, then it means then before they take him, I should have been dead before they take him. And before I die, I expect that my troops should die before I die. So obviously, if it happens, then logically, you know that there is a setup. Whilst in the car, arrested in the car, two of us, the vehicles I was going, I was just listening to hear a shot, because I expect that there must be a fight, because they will not let me go. But that how the vehicle went up to the gate, I was still expecting a fight from my troops. And the vehicle just exited the gate and turned towards the fire service, and then they keep on driving us in the night. And then they cover our faces. So we drove for a while. Then eventually we came to a place, and then I hear the sound of opening a door, like a big door opening. And in my mind, I was not seeing, but I was calculating whether it's east, west, or they are going finally. I knew that we are somewhere in Banjul, and that was at the NIA Headquarters. So they dropped us there, they took our things, they took our jujus, our monies. They had already taken out cell phones. And then after that, they handcuff us and then lock us in different cells. From that moment, I didn't see Captain Barodi again. I was handcuffed and I was locked up in a cell, an underground cell, where even I cannot even see nothing. It was as dark as probably forest in the night, middle of the night.
Do you know if that underground cell is known by any name?
Well, actually, I don't know. I know that there are cells they call Bambadinka, but definitely I didn't know the name, because I have not been, apart from that, our 2012 incident. I've not been to NIA. I've not been there really. I've never been there. 2012 was the first time that we went there. And if you are not by yourself, of course, it's only the area that you are taking that you can know.
I think we're running a bit out of time. You said they took you to the NIA and you were in an underground cell. Can you tell us what happened after that? Did you stay there?
I was there, I think, until around 3 a.m. in the night. Again, I had the vehicle enter. Then suddenly I had my cell is a steel door, this carbonated steel door. So I had, there are padlocks and then correct, they are opening. So when they opened, I was handcuffed. This time they removed the handcuff and then they handcuffed my hands behind. And then they hooded me again and then they put me into a car. They drove me until, I know they passed the Denton Bridge. Cough. Then eventually again, I had another door open again, This later I knew because it was a special detention center behind the Joshua prison. Behind the Joshua prison. It was a private home, but it is converted to a detention center where they have to, modify the rooms, make them smaller, and then, there's this ring rod. They concrete it on the wall. When they are handcuffing you, they put the handcuff in your hand, put the handcuff and handcuff you there in that ring handle. So around that 3 a.m. they took me there. So they put me in the cell, then they removed the hood and then they handcuffed me like the way you tied your cow in the stubborn cow at the cattle. So I was there. Suddenly I also hear somebody coughing. But there are a lot of those. It is divided into different cells. So not knowing that there were some other colleagues of mine who were also locked in different cells there, namely Lieutenant Colonel C.D. Juve. He is in Yundum now, and Major Yusuf Jammeh. Major Yusuf Jammeh also. These are people, we were all instructors at the school together. We work at the school together as instructors for so many years. So Major Yusuf Jammeh was also locked in the other cell. CD was also locked in the other cell. But I never know. I just heard someone coughing. I was wondering who would be these guys. So the day I was arrested, then I didn't eat dinner. I didn't drink. The following day I didn't eat. I think the next day in the morning, and then they brought some loose bread and butter. I was suspicious. That is our way. That is our upbringing. You should always be suspicious. That's the way my tribe. That's how we think. We should always be suspicious. So when they removed my handcuff and then they gave me the bread, I was checking inside because we have heard about so many stories. I was thinking probably has the bread been poisoned to eat it and die? Probably. So I opened the bread. And I saw it was a completely loose bread, maybe a stale bread. It's not a new bread, it's an old bread. So I open and check inside. Then I recited Fatiha and I also recited Yasin. Then, my mouth was completely dry. When I cut the bread with my teeth, for 15 minutes I was chewing the bread because there was no water in my mouth. I couldn't homogenize the bread in my mouth. And eventually I decided to swallow it. And when I swallowed it, my stomach was almost tearing. My stomach was like, you are punching my stomach inside with knives. And then I started sweating, you know, the whole of my body, even my palms and under my feet were all sweating. You know, and eating the bread, it was like I'm eating the raw sun. You know, so that's where we stayed until I think on the 19th evening or 20. At night, a director of NIA Baji came there. And they opened the cell. When they opened the cell, he saw me. So he called me, said, Maube. Then I started crying. Because I knew him, because when the security chiefs visited the camp 2 times on the sideline, I said to him, I said, I am the one who is doing the ballistic examination for the arms and security service. He said, oh, you are Captain Ba? I said, yes. I said, but sir, I have so many problems. Because, you know, weapon, you cannot give it to somebody who doesn't know it to carry it, or if it is explosive or grenade. I said, I need to have a vehicle to be able to do my job. You know, arms and ammunition are control items. You don't just give it to anyone to carry it. I said, I have that problem in, you know, getting a vehicle to be able to move to transport this thing. He promised me personally that he was going to give me a car from the NIA. Personally, he said, come, I will give you a car. So when he saw me, you know, then I was crying, and then he came and held me. He said, look, don't cry, you know, Fula and Jola, you know, we are Kal. You know, I don't know, for some reason I couldn't control my emotions. I was just crying, you know. You know, I said to him, with all the effort I have done, this is what I deserve. He said, okay, don't worry, we have done our findings. I don't know, because we are already locked. We don't know the news outside. On the whole, all those negotiations have taken place until, you know, this guy was about going. He said, no, you know, we have investigated, you know, but then you people are clean, so it's late today, but tomorrow morning we'll come and pick you and then take you to the NIA headquarters. So we spent that night, that day. The following day, I think in the afternoon, they came to pick us from there, and then they converged us. Then at the NIA headquarters, when they converged us there, I saw so many other of my colleagues. I was thinking that it was only me and Captain Barodi. On the whole, there were so many other of our colleagues, I think around 14 of us, who were also arrested. So we took our things, and then Yankuba sat us, you know, he's telling, yes, you know, this, sometimes it happened like this. Even myself, I was one time locked for no reason, krip karab, you know, so many things. You know, he spoke nicely, he said, okay, but then, you know, no problems, nothing is found against you. And you didn't even tell us for what reason were we arrested, and you are saying nothing was found about us. So then we live in different directions. They ask us, where do you live? You know, so people live in different places. I said to them, I live in Latrikunda. In actual fact, I don't live in Latrikunda. But not knowing the situation that time, I didn't want anyone who was supposed to drop me with a car to know my home. So when they brought me with a car up to Latrikunda, I said, you can drop me here. My home is just very close. Let's take you home. I said, no, it's just stone throw, you know. So just drop me here. So they dropped me there. Actually, I live in Sukuta. Then I took a taxi there, and I went to my home.
I just have a couple of quick questions for you. You mentioned that you were released on the 19th or 20th. Do you remember of which month and which year?
It was January. I think January 20. January 20.
Of which year?
2017.
And do you recall how long you spent at the detention center?
We spent a week or a little more than a week. Roughly a week or a little more than a week.
And when you came out, do you recall where the president, Yahya Jammeh, was at the time?
Eventually, when I came out, because I didn't know the situation, so I just went to my home, but I didn't spend the night at my home. I went to Yuna. One of my brother lives in Yuna, Abdullahi, and then we were told that, the Yahya Jammeh left the night before, the last night.
You said that you weren't informed of why you were arrested or what you were being investigated for, but what do you believe is the reason why you were arrested?
Until today, nobody in the entire armed forces ever told me, or from the NIA ever told me why I was arrested. However, when I was arrested, this my brother Osman, he went to the Foroya and published the story about my arrest. When they released me, I said, Osman, let's go to the Foroya so that I can thank them. Because it was not any newspaper that was bold enough to publish about this type of things. But I want to go to Foroya and thank them. So when the former CDS Osman Baji saw that story, he called me and then he asked me, hey, Captain Ba, who asked you to go to Foroya and this, that? I insulted him. I insulted his mother. I said, if you are a man, come face to face and ask me. I said I was arrested, with all what happened to me. You are the chief of defense staff. You didn't even call me, even if you don't know what happened, why I was arrested. You didn't even call to console me, to ask me sorry for what has happened, this, that. You are calling me and asking me foolish questions. I said, if you are a man, come and ask me why I went to the Foroya to go and publish about my issue there. And until today, he never asked me. Never asked me. When I saw we greet, we talk casually, finish. Until he was finally retired from the armed forces.
Did you at any point carry out the instructions or start carrying out the instructions he gave you in relation to the explosives?
I have never intended. I was looking at him as a foolish man, and I was calculating that, look, I am a citizen of this country. These nice people of the Gambia, everybody is saying that. If I had attempted to do this, I'm calculating, don't you think God will confuse me and I will make mistake, and prematurely I myself may explode there with the other guys, and that would be the end of the story. And I said, I will never do that. Even if they have given me, counted $1 billion and give me, I would have never done that. I am a professional man. I consider myself as a professional, and I will not use the knowledge and skill I have for any bad reason whatsoever. If it is in the defense of the country, I will do it. But if it is just out of what, I can't do that, because in the military, we are to obey orders and follow instructions, but the instructions and the orders have to be legal. They have to be legal instructions. They have to be legal orders. And if they are legal, that is part of discipline. You are expected to follow the command.
The last question from me, Captain Ba, is considering the experience that you've narrated here, first of all, as someone who has committed some human rights violations, and as someone who has suffered human rights violation, can you just tell us lastly what impact this entire experience has had on you?
Whatever you live through, it builds you either positively or negatively. Over these years, what has happened has built me, and I feel it has built me positively. I have gained experience. I have matured better with the trainings I had, the professional training, the academic training. So many things have happened, and I am still here, I want to thank God for that. I have committed some mistakes, and I have also been a victim. I think these are lessons that will be indelible in me till the end of my life. The TRRC, I'm not saying anything to ingratiate you. I think this is a good job. And I think anybody also who has done something wrong should be bold enough to come and tell the truth. Inshallah, there are a lot of things that are going. We have the security sector reform. Inshallah, I hope it will be done in a very good way, in a correct way, and the soldiers will be trained because for the past 22 years, the soldiers have not been training. They have been radicalized. They were not training. Believe me, those weapons that we had in the army, less than 15% were able to operate them. And around that time, you know, when you don't know the secret of things, you don't know it. Even an organized rebel group could have just come and then defeated us. Because the materials we were having, we don't know it, we don't know them. Our fighting elements don't know how to use them. So the army was highly politicized. And I think the armed forces and the entire security services of the Gambia should be disconnected with politics. They should concentrate on their jobs. They should be professionalized. And we should see ourselves as the military. We are the first assets of the country, accept it or not. Our primary function is to defend the territorial integrity of the country, to protect the citizens and the properties of the Gambia, and to protect everyone who is residents in the Gambia. This is the responsibility of the army. We are the institution on whose foundation development is built upon. And if your foundation is not good, then you don't expect a good structure. So this is what I want to say. I have said so many things. When you talk, there is tendency to make mistake. If I say anything good and anything truthful, it's God who inspired me to say that. If there is any mistake, it is my own human shortcomings. So I want to beg for forgiveness if I had made mistake.
I thank you for your time, Captain Ba. Mr. Chairman, that's the end of the testimony. Unless the commissioners have any further questions, that is it for this witness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma Counsel, and thank you, Captain Ba, for your testimony. I hope the confessions that you made about torturing OJ would help promote healing and reconciliation, not just between you and OJ, but perhaps the country and the process that we are embarked on. I have a short question to ask you on that. What kind of instructions do the soldiers, the Gambia Armed Forces get regarding respecting international or humanitarian law? Do you provide these instructions in either SOPs or in guidelines that they are given, or what? There must be, I would assume, a way of telling soldiers how they should respect humanitarian law, including the prohibition of torture.
I'm not aware of any SOP. If there is any also, I'm not aware. But usually our peacekeeping troops, before they are deployed to Darfur or wherever, usually they do a lot of trainings, including training on international humanitarian law. And at the Armed Forces Training School also, there is also an element on that, on the law of war, who to engage in case there is a battle, how to treat the enemy when you capture the enemy, And I remember this famous British SOP, where one time I was involved in PSO training, peace support operation training. And those instructors, the British Army instructors from Gibraltar, in our practicals, they said that when the enemy attacks you and fire at you, he misses you, and he's running away, he's retreating. Even though you are not expected to fire him because already he is retreating. And I think Islam also is the same thing. In Islam is also the same thing. All those good laws are normally in line with Islam. So where somebody has engaged you and he is retreating, you are not supposed to fire him. Even if you arrest him, then what should you do to him? You should treat him according to the rules of the Geneva Convention. Ask his name, ask his rank as an officer, and comfort him. So I think there should be more of that training. The officers already they know, but probably we need to filter these things to the troops as well. Because the bulk of the army, the bulk of the fighting force of the army also are the troops. So unless the troops are good, then we officers are not good. I always tell my officers at the Fajara Barracks, I said, if we sit here, we feel that we are professional, we are good, and our troops are not good, it means then we are not good. Because if we are good, then we should make our troops also to be professional and to be good. So I'm sure the new CDS, General Kinte, he have a great vision for the army. He have a great vision to professionalize the army. I have worked with him closely from the training school years back. And even before he was removed the last time, he have got good plans for the army to professionalize the army. What I will urge myself and urge my fellow officers is to give him 100% helping hands. He is very professional. He's a visionary leader. He is good. If he is given the opportunity, definitely he will transform the armed forces.
Thank you for that answer. I do hope that instructions are given at the time of a training. You said you're an instructor at you were at the training school, that young soldiers, people joining the armed forces, are trained to respect these laws. Even in established armies or military establishments, these are things that are updated, they are taken care of, they are given as instructions. In the late I think it was early 90s, I spent a month or two lecturing at Sandhurst, and we were working exactly on these rules of war, rules that need to be updated from time to time. If Sandhurst is doing that, I can't imagine that in a situation like this with an instruction school here in the Gambia, that is not, soldiers are not taught to handle that. But I do hope that your colleagues are listening to you, and at some point people are trained to respect these laws and avoid torturing other people. The second question I have deals with, I think you probably answered it, maybe it's more clarification. When you were given instructions to, or suggestions or whatever it was, to plant explosives, did you have explosives already somewhere stored, or you were to manufacture explosives? I just wanted to be sure that if you did have them, where were they stored, and did you have enough to hit the targets that were being suggested to you?
Yes, we have explosives in Yundum Barracks. And then also I was privileged after when the new government came in, I was privileged to go and disarm Kanilai. I was privileged, escorted by the ECOMIC. And there I also discovered so many explosives there. And in Banjul at the State House also, there are explosives. You know, when you say explosive, it's a general term. Not only the conventional explosive stuff, but even a grenade, you can enhance it and then, you know, increase the impact. Explosives were not readily with me. If I was willing, I could have improvised, because I have conducted some the demolition exercise here in 2006 when we had that container of scrap metals that came from Guinea-Bissau, and they mistakenly put along some cells there, and it exploded. I was the one who disposed those ones off. I could have improvised. But, you know, they were readily available. And considering the influence of the man, if I call him, probably I said I need 5 kilograms of C4 or TNT. You know, they could have provided anyway. They could have provided, really. It was not, the explosives were not available with me. They were available in the army stores. And considering the guy who gave me the instructions, considering the influence he has got, if I had agreed and probably call him a day or two after, I said, okay, I have did my mathematical calculation, and I just need 5 kilograms of C4 or TNT. These are type of names of explosives. C4 is composition 4, TNT is trotulalan, something like that. So he would have made it available, but I was not interested whatsoever to do harm, because already I have had the experience, so I didn't want to mess up any longer. This is why I didn't call him, and I didn't respond to him. I agree with what you said, like about this training on international humanitarian law and the law of armed conflict and law of war. I concur fully with what you have said, sir.
Thank you very much. Any commissioners have any? Commissioner Carr, Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Kinte, and Commissioner C later on. Yeah, let's go in that order. Commissioner Carr, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions I want to ask. The first is, you said General Baji told you that the coalition wanted to revenge. Did he tell you what revenge? That's my first question. The second is, you also said that you are moved away from the NIA to another illegal detention center. Do you know about the existence of other illegal detention centers?
Can you repeat the first question, please? Sorry.
Yes, from my understanding of what you said during your meeting with General Baji, he told you that the coalition, some people wanted to revenge. Do you know, or did he tell you what revenge that was?
No, I think partially I have already answered that question, because when he made these allegations, you know, I assume that, you know, he is making the allegations against the coalition, because they were the only people who were legally contesting what they own that time. So when he made the inference that these people want to revenge, although he didn't specify, I assume that he was referring to the coalition, because the coalition was the only body that was contesting the power in the Gambia, and they were only the only body that was legally to contest the power and authority of in the Gambia at that time. So I assume that he was referring to the coalition, but what revenge, what vengeance, he didn't specify. Sorry, can you repeat the second one as well?
Yes, you mentioned that you are moved, from my own understanding again, from the NIA to another illegal detention center. Do you know about the existence of other illegal?
Before I was taken to the NIA, I thought perhaps NIA was the only detention center. That's what I thought. But when I find myself suddenly at a place around Joshua Prison, I was surprised, definitely. When I asked my other colleagues, and they also told me they were detained around the petroleum house, around that area, others were detained, I don't know, somewhere. And later it emerged, even at the airport, you have some secret detention centers at the airport. You know, I was shocked and definitely surprised. And for the fact that, you know, I found myself kept in that detention center. So again, I assume that there would be similar detention centers, and information arrived that, you know, there are so many detention centers, secret detention centers as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones.
Commissioner Jones. Captain, but within the commission, we have several committees, one of which is the Child Protection Committee. You did mention that in 2012, when you were at the NIA, some children were brought in for questioning. Did you get to see, or do you remember who those people were who brought in the children? 2, please don't mention the names. Did you eventually get to find out who those children were, and do you know if they were tortured at all?
Thank you. Well, the fact that the children were brought to the NIA, and I was behind bars there, and it was night around 1 o'clock. Imagine, even if the lights are on, you know, at a distance, I was not able to recognize. And so many years have, some few years have passed. The children have grown up also. So I may not be able to remember what the children are, who the children were. But my understanding is that they were not tortured. My understanding is that they were just asked, and then they reacted the movie there. They reacted the movie, and I think after that they let them go.
Thank you, Commissioner Kinte.
Captain Ba, this is Commissioner Kinte. I remember you said the army was seriously politicized. In some technical term, one would say was highly polluted. Do you have any suggestions in the reform of the army that will, you know, reduce the politicization or the pollution, so that not what is coming next, already what the situation is? Do you have any recommendations that you can make that will improve the state and professionalism, competency, and reliability of the army?
Thank you very much, Commissioner Kite. I think to depoliticize the army, that will be the job of the government, and also in conjunction with the authorities of the Gambia Armed Forces. The soldiers are there to obey orders and follow instructions. So it is the duty of the authorities to make sure that they disconnect the army with politics. Let them allow the army to concentrate on their constitutional role. Once they allow the army to concentrate on their constitutional role, and the authorities give the high command of the Gambia Armed Forces the leeway, the absolute freedom to, you know, make sure that, you know, the army is not politicized, is professionalized. I think the guys at the helm of affairs in the Gambia Armed Forces, with their concerted effort, they can do that. I know that there is a security sector reform. It should be actualized as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner C. Imam C.
Abubakar Ba, Commissioner Imam C. We thank
you for the apology you have rendered to OJ Jallo. What you have done is in line with Islam. Commission has had your statement and your apology. Secondly, when you were arrested for the second time, were you tortured?
Physically, no. But psychologically and others, yes.
Thank you very much, Captain Kinte, Captain Ba. Council, if we don't have any further questions from your side, we will end our session for the morning and come back in an hour's time after lunch. Do we have the next witness ready, or sorry to put you on the spot?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. If the Commission so directs, we would oblige without question.
Very wise, Council. You put the ball back in my court after our discussion before in the area. Thank you very much. We'll see you all tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Meeting is adjourned.
Much obliged.